Hello and welcome back to the road to 1600. Today I'm starting off at 774 and this game I have for you today is awesome. It had a little bit of everything. It had some mistakes, some good tactics, a really fun ending, and I thought I had blundered it all away in the mid-game, but thankfully my opponent was too focused on the center to see it. And if you're just finding the channel for the first time, feel free to subscribe as we continue to grow. And with that, let's jump into this super fun game. Alright, let's get into this game review. Starting off at 774. So let's find an opponent. And we find Mr. Chess, we'll call him. And before I jump into this review, I've been reading the London system and how it is kind of a more structural setup as opposed to trying to find a trap or trying to find like a quick tactic. And I've been looking for an opening that is not passive per se, but also just more sound. You know, it's easier to get to. You don't have to have like these certain few sets of moves. Like I saw one video on the Ponziani, like there were some wicked traps in that opening, but it was a very specific set of moves that it took to get there. Alright, so let's jump into my first online game as the London system. So, playing Queen Pawn. I historically have always played King Pawn, so this is a little bit different for me going Queen Pawn first. Okay, and what I also like about the London is that, you know, you have to keep an eye on their bishops. You know, if the light squared bishop comes out or the dark squared bishop comes out, how exactly you handle that. But for the most part, you're able to get to the sound structure of the London regardless of what moves the opponent is making. So I'm setting up shop. I want to make sure I get that strong pyramid. And I learned that if the opposing bishop does come out to threaten your dark squared bishop, it's good to fall back to g3, because if they take, you can take with your h-pawn and open up your rook. So I saw that, I fell back. I wanted to just make sure that I was, you know, not being over aggressive and taking, but try to get taken and open up that rook. So doesn't elect to take. So I continue the development. I want to get that light squared bishop on d3, and I want to get my other knight onto d2 as well. So I'm feeling pretty good. You know, there's been no takes just yet. I got the system I want to get to. I ultimately want to get my knight onto e5, so then I can start, you know, planting him in the center. And it's kind of nice right now because his dark squared bishop is blocking his d-pawn, so he can't even move to d6 to threaten that e5 square. And I got a pretty good defense on that e5 square with my pawn, my knight, and my bishop. So ultimately I want to get up there, but I do still see that my dark squared bishop is being threatened. And so in my practice games, I hadn't seen this all that much. I'm gonna have to go take a look at the engine later and see what exactly the best move is against e5. This isn't something I've seen before, and so I didn't necessarily know how to handle it. But like I said, I still have that d4, I got my f3 and my g3 pieces all staring at that. So if I was doing my math, I was looking at, okay, he's got a knight protecting it, and he's got a bishop protecting it. So he's got 2 pieces, I've got 3 pieces. Okay, I think I'm good to take because I've got the advantage here. So after a couple trades, I ultimately get to that knight on e5, but not exactly how I wanted to get there. I wanted to make sure my pawn structure was stable before I started making any sort of attack. I didn't want to over leverage myself by moving my d4 pawn up there. And maybe that was the best move because it would have been protected by my knight. I'm going to have to double check because again, I hadn't seen that position before. So he slides his rook over to attack, so now he's attacking with 2 pieces, I'm defending with 1 piece, so I think, let me defend with, well, I guess I wasn't trying to defend with this. I was thinking to myself, okay, yeah, you can have that knight, but I'm going to try to attack your h7 square if I can figure out how to get your knight out of there, because your knight is making a pretty good defense. And I'm also taking a look at that f7 spot. So I'm looking at my light squared bishop, and I'm kind of taking a look at that right-hand side of the board. But oh boy, did I just make a huge mistake. I didn't see it because I was so focused on that e5 square. And from what I've learned is that the London system is based around that e5 square. You want to maintain control, you want to make sure it's defended, and you want to capture that e5 square. And so thankfully, my opponent was also really focused on that e5 square. So after a couple moves, and again, I got my eyes on that top right hand corner. Maybe if I can move him into check with the bishop up to f7, and then I can take his rook, destabilize that position a little bit. That's kind of my goal. But then after this, I didn't realize it until after this move, and thankfully he didn't realize it either. I think he wanted to fork my bishop and my queen, which he's doing right now, but I did not see his b7 bishop staring at my queen. Oh, that was so bad. But also thankfully he didn't either. So quick take. I don't know what I would have done. I should have lost this game because he slides up and takes, and I don't know if you saw that little flash right there. I was marking up the screen as I was playing the game, and I was like, oh god, there it is. So I knew I had to just get out of that position, and I wonder if after I made this move, my queen up to f4, if he saw, oh crap, I could have had his queen and just changed the dynamic of this game. Yeah, he just moves up to defend that e5 space. And this game has just been all about e5. And so I see the forces coming in on the left-hand side a little bit, so I figure, okay, let's slide back, let's regroup, and let's take a look at that right-hand side of the board again. And then this was really interesting. I don't think this was his best move. I think he probably could have maybe played a little bit more defense, or maybe tried to attack my bishop or my queen a little bit more, but this just poked a hole in my pawns and allowed me to just slide my rook over. And I really don't understand this one because it's not protected by anything. Looking at his position right now, his back rank rook is still there, his queen is trapped, his progressed rook isn't really doing all that much, and his knight isn't really doing all that much either. I mean, he's got a very stable pawn structure, but this bishop isn't protected by anything, and it just poked a hole in my pawns that allowed me to now have my rook, my queen, and my bishop staring at his king. So he sees that, and now I want to slide back to try to, again, maybe sacrifice with my bishop on h7. But now I wanted to set up that battering ram too. I'm just going to go straight to g7. Like, I think that's going to be checkmate. And I think he sees that as well. But his bishop is also defended by his knight, so I slide up the pawn to remove his bishop. Knight comes over. Okay, I'm still staring at that king, and he left his bishop unattended. Like, I don't know. And so he's losing pieces. His queen really isn't involved right now. That rook is kind of annoying, but it's not really doing a whole lot. I think now he sees what I'm seeing, is that I got eyes on your king. And so I figured, okay, let's try to move some of these pawns out of the way. I was kind of buying time right here, and I also wanted to connect my rooks. I knew that I had to move some of these pawns out of the way. Didn't necessarily know what I was going to do just yet, but I knew I didn't want to really move my position all that much because I had a pretty solid foothold right now. So he was attacking my queen, and then slide the pawn up again, just inch my way closer. And this is, I'm pretty proud of myself. That was an interesting move because once I take his pawn, if he takes me, I was going to sacrifice my bishop to break that pawn structure because I knew that I had that battering ram on the g-file. So if he takes my bishop, I can move my bishop up to f7 for discover check on the queen. I could take his rook, and then we can go from there. And I could probably move my queen up. And then it gets real fun after that. So I think he also sees that. So I figured, okay, let's discover check anyway, and I'll take a pawn. And so now I'm going to move up. My queen's still protected by my rook. He slides over to the left, and that is it. Yeah, once he broke open my pawn structure in the bottom right, and he forgot to take my queen, I'm not going to say it was done because I'm definitely not that good. But I knew I kind of had the upper hand, and I was feeling pretty good about it. I had 3 pieces. Stern had his king. A lot of his pieces hadn't really been developed. Like his queen, I don't think his queen moved, and I think his other rook moved 1 space. So I had the advantage a lot of the game. And I don't think I really overextended myself too much until I really needed to. So if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love a subscription as we continue to grow. And I will catch you in the next one. Thank you.